we'll start with our update on the strategic plan. And again, as a reminder, for some of the new folks, and a reminder for folks that were here last year, we have a great opportunity and a partnership with Washington State University. Dan Tudenberg was instrumental in helping put this together for us, and so we're grateful for him helping us with it. But it's the beginning stages of a strategic planning process for the county, and so their Division of Governmental Studies and Services had created an employee survey based around our county's 4 goals that were adopted years and years ago, so they developed a series of questions around those goals to start to help us establish a baseline. We were able to receive the preliminary set of responses for the survey a couple of weeks ago, and the survey was conducted, Dan, I believe, in November and December.
Correct.
Right around there. We had a couple of weeks where it was open, and we had a chance, Frank and I had a chance to meet with Christina Sanders, who is from Washington State University out in Pullman, who has kind of been their point person for us on this a week or two ago, and the initial review of the results was very positive, both from the perspective of participation, which was above what is normally expected for a survey of this nature, but also positive from the standpoint of the responses that we got. I think there are certainly reasons to be hopeful, that we can start to put together a strategic plan based on some of the feedback that we got here. Christina did caution me that this is only a draft summary and analysis of the results, and in the coming weeks they'll be moving a copy of this to us that is going to be their final evaluation of them. And I just want to kind of touch briefly on some of the highlights there that they presented to us. And again, just the purpose of the survey was to understand perspectives and experiences working for the county in order to inform our strategic planning process. And the first goal for the county was managers and employees who are courteous, effective, and efficient, whose morale is high because they recognize their work is valued and they are part of the planning process. And the survey showed that 2/3 of the respondents agreed or strongly agreed that they received the guidance that they need to perform their jobs well. So we were happy to see that there are a good bit of the employees that participated that believe that they're getting the kind of support that they need from their managers in order to get the job done for the county. Going forward here, the second goal that they targeted was to increase confidence among the general public by providing efficient, coordinated, cost-effective programs and services to the people of Mason County. So most respondents agreed that employees are provided with training for new technologies or tools. That came out to almost 54%. Only 32.7% of respondents agree at some level that innovation and creativity are rewarded, while 44% of those disagree. Similarly, only 40% of employees feel that new business practices are encouraged. So they felt that was an area where we could work together at trying to bring that innovation and creativity out of the employees a little bit more to the forefront, so that when there are processes to improve, we're relying on the people who are actually kind of the boots on the ground doing the job. And so that was one of the other areas that they targeted. The third goal was to institute a management planning process in Mason County. The process should include employee accountability and evaluation through clearly defined department objectives. It says a large majority of employees agree that they have enough information to do their job well. That was over 70%. So there's that aspect to it as well. And then finally, the fourth goal was to have a work environment where all individuals can feel they are a trusted member of the organization, as well as promoting public trust in the abilities of all levels of Mason County government. It says here, there does seem to be some disagreement on these questions, as a slight majority indicated some level of agreement that managers and supervisors communicate goals and priorities And managers and supervisors follow up on employee suggestions, but less than half agree that employees are kept informed and that managers and supervisors promote communication among different work units. So that's another area where we can improve according to the data that we have. A lot of folks feel like they communicate well within their work group, but once we get outside of those sideboards and have cross-department communication there, we have some room for improvement. And that's precisely what they say here. The results suggest that there is room for improvement in training tools and information provided to employees. It says here, one of the other things that I thought was interesting, it says a particular focus on creating a workplace where workers can contribute creatively to process improvement, explicitly connecting work activities to county goals, and ensuring that training is targeted to the needs of employees so that each worker has the resources and knowledge to be effective in their job. So it's kind of the 30,000 foot level of the draft. As I said, we'll be hearing back from them in the next few weeks with sort of the final evaluation of this, and then from there they'll also provide us with a framework to begin a strategic planning process here in the county that we can rely on these results to help build that out. I don't know, Dana, if you had any other conversations with Christina that would...
Not with Christina, although the report, she said is very, very, very draft.
Yeah.
Look forward to a more updated one coming up soon. But I did have 3 or 4 individual emails from other departments asking, hey, next time when you do this, can we include, it would be nice to know those pieces. And I found that really fascinating. That came because of an all-employee survey. Jerry said that he had done a survey with a few years ago.
A long time ago.
So that this is a new concept, I would think, for a lot of folks in Mason County. So if people are looking to get information, I would think there would need to be a system-wide communication protocol to reach all departments on getting information on their feedback back and forth, that this really shouldn't be the first one when you go into a strategic planning process, because otherwise it's very much one-sided.
Are those results going to be broken down by department, or are they staying at the 30,000 foot level?
So we did not ask for what department folks were in when they responded, and that was at the urging of WSU to kind of protect people's
I think your response
there.
rate would have significantly decreased if you did ask that.
Sure. It's just,
yeah, we limited
with a 5-person department, I'm kind of lost in the statistical wash.
Yeah.
I'm a one department.
Well, you can at least figure out what the responses were.
You get disgruntled employees.
Yeah.
Outstanding report.
Yeah, so, we tried to limit the demographic questions on this to, it was a 19-question survey with, I believe, 4 or 5 demographic questions, and so, the thought process there is the less questions you ask people, the more likely they are to go through and complete the whole thing, and so we wanted to make sure that when we put together, the questions together, that we were going to get,
Sure.
responses and that kind of thing. And there were some open-ended questions as well that they're still processing, I believe, and so we'll have even more kind of first-person responses to incorporate into the analysis. And I was just really pleased, and it speaks to your own department's efforts to get this out, and certainly appreciate WSU's willingness to work with us on this. And it's one thing to put together a survey, it's another thing to analyze the results, and so we're very grateful that they're continuing to see this through, and look forward to using this to better the county. Any other questions or feedback? I will say before I do that, I will say, we had a small work group that was kind of focused on this last year, and depending on the sort of blueprint that we develop as a result of this with WSU, we may have an opportunity to expand that and ask for cooperation across the department as we take the next steps. Any questions, comments, observations? Okay. And so that takes us to our third item here, which is updates from elected officials and directors. So we'll just kind of go around the room, and since I started on the left for introductions, I'll start on the right for updates.
Okay, so, updates. SmartGov is here, it's live. It has some bugs. When we brought the system over from the old system, which is Tidemark, not everything transferred in those several million files correctly. So we have some hiccups right now. And Dude Solutions is working through our request to get some things fixed.
Dude Solutions.
Yeah, it was another company when we bought in, and it was bought out by this company called Dude Solutions. We did not go that direction in the first place. It's eventually going to get us to where we need to be with the online permitting piece. I was in there quite a bit this last week looking at the reports that it can generate, and I crashed my computer this morning because I really generated a really cool report that crashed the whole thing. But it's working well. It's going to give us the ability to pull a lot of really granular data out of it on not only how long things are taking to process, but if something exceeds a standard, it will flag those permits that have taken too long and assigns it to someone to look into it. So it's really a nice system. It's going to make a big difference once we get through this whole learning process. It's not like going from Windows 7 to Windows 10. It's like Windows to Apple. It's a complete different way of thinking and processing data and processing permits. It does have assigned workflows, so as the permit comes in, the permit text can assign it, and it goes out to the technicians, and it shows up in a queue for them to work on. So it's not just sitting in a drawer somewhere. We eliminate the ability for permits to get lost and stuck to other permits because it's in the system and it'll show up in the workflow. So it's a nice system. We're cruising right along. We're in the process of we did a strategic plan last year for the department, and February is our work plan month, so all the managers are going through with their staff and building their new work plans for 2019. Most of it's going to be around, again, SmartGov, but we've got some planning things that we're working on, some regulatory changes. And the other big thing right now for us is measles. So it's up to 50 cases in Clark County now, 1 in King County. And the problem you have is the latency between exposure and development of symptoms can be as long as 4 to 7 days, so these people can be exposed and be infective, long before they even realize it. So we could see it here in Mason County. Clark County has had an emergency response team come out of the Department of Health. They were replaced this morning by a team out of, I think, North Dakota or South Dakota, came over to relieve the DOH crew so they can get some rest. They've been going through this for almost 2 weeks now. Each one of those cases has dozens, sometimes hundreds of contacts. Some of these folks, while they were exposed and able to infect folks, went to places like Costco, a couple mega churches, schools, and each one of those contacts requires an investigation. So it's an expensive thing for Clark County. I expect their bill to run probably $2 million on this investigation. So the governor has declared a state of emergency over the measles. We have had no confirmed cases here in Mason County, so cross our fingers. We'll hope that continues. People are starting to ask a lot of questions. We're getting phone calls. We've got some materials out. State Department of Health has done a really good job of getting materials out on the web for people. And the poison line here in the state is now answering measles case questions as well. So if people have questions about have I been exposed, or what does measles look like, they can call the poison control line, and those folks are all briefed and ready to shunt people over to the right avenues. So it's not just a simple rash. Fatalities run about 2 per 1,000 cases. It's 90% infective. So it's if you are exposed and you're unvaccinated, 90% chance you're going to get it. And it's virulent enough, it will stay in the air for 2 hours after the person leaves. So you can get affected 2 hours afterwards. So it is a kind of a big deal for us. So that's it in our world.
Thanks, Dave. Lisa?
I felt your growing pains going through a couple of transitions too, so as I'm shaking my head, yes, yeah, I feel for you, but it really, in the long run, is gonna make life much easier,
Mhm.
so I wish that for your department for sure. Couple things going on in the treasurer's office right now. 2019 property taxes have been certified for collection, and the statements are out at the printers now. They were sent last Thursday, and it takes anywhere from 7 to 10 business days before they're mailed. So they should go out sometime around February 14th to February 15th. But they are certified for collection, so we may have some tax revenue coming in here shortly. And the other thing that we're working on in conjunction with the assessor's office and with the auditor's office is electronic REIT. So we'll be accepting, we haven't done our test yet, but we're getting everything set up to accept electronic real estate excise tax affidavits along with documents online, probably from title companies, and then they will be routed between the 3 offices for processing. So that's our next innovation that we're working on, and hopefully we'll be live probably about the first part of March for that. So.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. Okay.
Couple of items. I've been tasked with a request to do another salary survey, similar to one that was done 5 years ago, 6 years ago, of all electeds and non-represented. So that will be coming forward to the board in the next 30 to 90 days. We are scheduled on February 11th here in Chambers to meet with the jail consultant that has risen to the top of the RFQ in regards to a regional jail analysis between Mason County and Grays Harbor. Mason County Board, the sheriff, I believe, and the jail chief and myself will be present. From Grays Harbor, it will be their facilities director, their jail chief. The sheriff isn't 100% committed to be available, as well as 1 or 2 of the board members. So that will be here on this coming Monday. We have an RFQ out for assistance in developing the building that was purchased on Franklin for facilities and for district court and some ancillary offices there as well. From an IT perspective, both Todd and Ben are in training with Laserfish. Laserfish is a software that we're using for archiving and records management and document management. Once they're back, then that will continue to expand. In addition to Laserfish, IT has committed to expand our email to Outlook by the end of this year. So everybody's smiling. I hear a sigh of relief there.
Around the applause for that one.
So that will be rolling out the third to the fourth quarter of this year. Also, there is some Munis training that is being scheduled for budgeting purposes and accounts payable. And if any of your individuals within your departments is looking for some supplemental training, please contact Jennifer, and she will give you dates and times that might be available. And that's all I have.
Great, thanks, Commissioner.
Not much, as you all know, financially, we did better this year than everybody thought we were going to, so at the end, there was more money, 7.8 for any fund balance. I'm saying that, but it was the idea that a lot of that's gonna get eaten up right away, because we're in contract negotiations with 7 unions at this time. And I wanna remind you gently, please, a few years ago, when we went through this process, we had some elected officials that we had to talk with or pull away from those discussions to make sure they had their agendas and the people they wanted to see get raises, and they ended up working against our negotiation a little bit. So please remember to keep that separate. as we go through this, and let the negotiation teams, who will also keep you involved, of course, and as long as you're not working against what they're doing, so please just remember that as we move forward, because like I said, that's gonna take a big chunk out of any money we put away now, with that many employees.
Commissioner Trask?
Well, yeah, I'm on the legislative steering committee, and there's a ton of bills out there. A lot of them are unfunded mandates. But there's a lot of good bills too that could help us. So we'll just keep tracking, keep looking at those. If you have any questions on the bills, call someone else. No, just give me a call. Have a lot of things to learn still. They said, people have asked me, how's drinking out of a fire hose, right? I said, nah, it's like drinking out of a fire hose with different flavored water. And so there's still a lot to learn, but I'm sure enjoying it.
Sure.
Gosh, it's been kind of an interesting little while for us. Kind of some really neat things at the same time come out of some things that change. We've had a lot of retirements in our office, and we're losing some very experienced people. Detective Kenny Potts has retired. We'll be seeing them off here in the next week. We have Detective Luther Pittman many years. Luther has retired, and Deputy Doug Smith. On the positive side of that, probably one of the neater things to add in our county is that we've had a great relationship with our tribes, which most agencies in the state and the country don't, and we've always had a great relationship with our tribal law enforcement. Joe Vukic was the longest serving tribal chief in the history of the Skokomish Police Department to stay at one time. Joe and I were co-lieutenants at Thurston together. And so Joe has retired from out there, which left a gap or a void, which has been just filled this morning by the swearing of Deputy Douglas Smith is now the chief of the Skokomish Police. And so that is just a really positive thing for our community that Doug is taking over that role. We went out today and watched him get sworn in, so we're really proud of Doug and each of the persons that are retiring. Along with that, it's been great for us over the last recruitment stages that this last year the Academy recognizes as one of the agencies that has the very top recruits in the state of Washington, where our people are finishing at the Academy among and competing against Seattle and everybody else in Vancouver and Spokane in the state. We keep running our people to keep coming out in the top 3 every time in the Academy, and recognized by that. And we have a number of new recruits that are coming in. We just swore another one in today. They're just fantastic veterans, and we are really, really thrilled to have them coming in. The last thing is I talked, I guess we've not been on judges here. I had a conversation with Judge Goodell a week or so ago over some concerns over, once again, looking at the active shooter issues in court security. And we're putting together right now, we're working on a classroom piece to go over the security in the buildings again, as well as we're at the second phase of that to do a walkthrough. And at some point, and this is all cost dependent on having an active shooter training, which would include all of our agencies to do that for, especially the court buildings. Chief Spurling and I have been out and been almost every school and every business is asking us for that same training now, and it's just us to be able to go do that. It's been working out real well, so we're hoping in the future as we move up, as the judge said, hopefully sooner than later, to go back through a response to active shooter training, especially for the court. And the reason for that this is becoming a labor-intensive process is that as the court has changed and the members of the staff have changed, we have the same thing in the communities. The schools change staff, and so now everybody's calling us, and now we can almost do this every day. But it is important, because if you have staff changes in your building, and if you haven't updated your people on what your response plan is going to be, I'm not going to tell you what it's going to be. You need to do that, but it's something you do need to look at for the safety of employees and think about what would you do in a response. If you don't have some kind of a plan together, you should probably do that. But to go back through in our courts and some of the places where we're kind of in the most volatile circumstances is to have some type of plan in place, and we do offer a minimum amount of training to do that, but a lot of it's up to the individual agencies or individual buildings. But I think that's a positive thing as the world has just kind of gone nuts around us. it's a good thing to keep up and have a little bit of plan, especially if somebody, maybe a new employee that hasn't been in government work at all, or somebody new just coming into the area, so they understand how you get in and out of your building and what is expected of your staff. So I recommend you kind of do that yourself, and then we'll be setting up some training for the court and members of the staff over there.
Recommendation anyway, I just did my third one. Chief Sperling is phenomenal, but more than that, he's actually entertaining. I'd say they laughed as much as they did anything else. So if you invite him in to give him the spiel that he gives, you will actually be entertained while you're doing it, and it was very good. Like I said, it's my third one, and I walk out of there with more and even more impressed the third time than I was first.
It used to be on this that years ago, when I first started teaching the trains for Thurston County, the businesses over there, and the schools that, quite honestly, some of the training that we do, people were resistant to because they felt it was too graphic or too real time, that they didn't want to hear about the bad things. And then, and now that we kept predicting we're gonna have these problems, and now that the problems got here, now everybody's saying, we'll take the training, we can get over the grotesque piece, the real straightforward piece. And I think people, our churches, Commissioner Netherland was at the training last week. It's basic, but I think for employees to understand, here's my escape route, here's probably what I should be doing. If you don't have something in your head ahead of time, and something like that happens, you're gonna have a problem. And so I would go over that again with your employees, and it's just safer for everybody in our I'd say, county campus, but in the community somewhere, not right on the campus, but even at the public works. If you've got somebody creating a disturbance, the front window there or something, how are your employees gonna shut down and get out of there or something? So anyway, that's where we're at.
Great, thank you. Patty?
Well, so since I've been in office, we're back open to the public on Fridays. Our revaluation cycle is right now the city limits and west out to Dayton. The appraisers are out doing their site inspection and collecting the data for that. There was no analysis started yet for the statistical update, so we're trying to get organized to get that going. I'm trying to reorganize the office a little bit. We're in negotiation with the Teamsters because I'm lucky enough to have 2 unions in office. I wanted to try to make the appraisers more in line with like what Grace Harbor does with the statistical league, to be more, with today's time with the annual update. I had 2 job openings that closed last, I think the 25th or the 26th. I've already been doing interviews for an appraiser and also chief deputy. We did, like Lisa said, I certified the levies on the 17th of January to hand them over for the tax calculation for them to be going. And let's see, I do need some munis training. Lisa was helpful enough for me to learn payroll, and otherwise I've asked the people up front if it's a detriment to have it public, on Fridays, and it seems like it's flowing fine. We all step up and help, and now that we're starting corrections, I just, if they need to be one-on-one, they go sit in the back and work and cover the counter. So we've got a lot going on, and hopefully get the statistical going. Grace Harbor's kind enough to allow me to come back and look over their shoulder to see about the annual update and how to do it, because our county appraiser left. And so I'm gonna try to get that going so it's not late. So that's what we've been up to.
Great. Patty?
Oh,
Another Patty.
It was confusing enough when we were on the ballot together.
Yeah.
So we have the same initials too, just for the record. On the licensing side, as you probably know, the Mountain View sub-agency closed last fall. Karen went through a process of selecting a successor, which was rejected by the Department of Licensing on technical issues. We're in the process of doing that again. It's having them gone is a pretty significant burden on my staff, because it means the only place in Shelton to deal with title issues or get tabs renewed is upstairs. And pretty much anytime 9-4, there's a line of people waiting to be served. The part of the joy of being a licensing sub-agent is you make the same, we make the same amount of money whether we serve the people or whether they are served by the sub-agent. So not having a sub-agent doesn't even mean we get more revenue, we get the same revenue. So hopefully, we're doing interviews next week, and hopefully Department of Licensing won't take 2 months again and then say no again. On the elections side, there's a lot going on with the legislature. As Commissioner Trask mentioned, one of our big legislative priorities of the Auditors Association, I'm on the Auditors Legislative Committee, is a fair share funding bill that would require the state to pay for its share of elections during even numbered years. So currently, everybody, school districts, fire districts, everybody, cemetery districts pays their share of the cost of an election except the state, which pays nothing in even numbered years. It's a $14 million bill. It would be about $100,000 to Mason County in a presidential year and $75,000 in a non-presidential year. So it would, from a budgeting standpoint, help out a lot to smooth out the cyclical nature of my budget. So it passed out of Senate State Government Committee and is in Ways and Means in the Senate, and we've had a hearing on the House side and had broad support. So I know this isn't the first time this has come up, but it seems like there's some momentum around this, so we'll know more soon. On the, as Dave mentioned, new systems, the state is building a new voter registration and election management system, which we will convert to on June 1st, and then have an election in August. So that'll be fun. It seems to be coming along pretty well. So this is currently 39 counties keep their own voter registration data and sync it to a state system. This is going to be a state system that feeds down to the counties. So we won't be maintaining our own data anymore. We will be maintaining it on the state system. It seems to be coming along. They're doing data conversion work now. But it will be different processes. Things will just be different. And that's always exciting. And then we also will soon have same-day voter registration. And there's just no way to judge how many people are going to take advantage of that, what it's going to mean. But it means on election days, we have to have a counter open until 8 p.m. and be ready for whoever shows up to be able to cast a ballot. And with no experience with this, we'll cope. But it's certainly at the presidential, it's going to, I think, be a very big factor in a year. But we'll see. So. Never a dull moment in life. That's all I have.
Very good. So Patty, you're lucky. Mike Dorsey slipped in later than you did.
Oh, good. I'm off the hook.
No, he didn't.
He's got a great treat.
Anything from the prosecutor's office, Mike?
No, thanks.
Very good.
I'm
Chip
sure.
Careful.
We're
I get
down
that.
lawyers and also vertically challenged.
Judge Finley?
Just a couple things. First, we applied for a grant, a federal grant, to help grow our family recovery court. As you may know, I think we've all talked about the fact that our therapy courts are growing. A lot of good work is happening there. Hopefully ends up a lot of people who won't end up in the criminal system in the long run. So we're hopeful to get that grant because of our numbers. I think we look pretty good for it. We'll find out in May. Then, of course, we also have talked with the VHO about the involuntary treatment court and how that's going to look like. We're hoping to do a walkthrough of the building this Friday or sometime, just to get an idea, get ourselves acquainted with what the courtroom would look like. And then finally, yes, we welcome a training. The last training I think we had there was one put on by this gentleman right here. And there are some new people in the building, not so much in my office, but in the clerk's office and obviously in the district court office. And it would be very nice to have a training.
Building's been reconfigured too. We did one in there before.
And also, I think that one of the things the court has to look at is, do we shut down for a day to do this training? I think Kitsap County did that. and we're talking about that. So, we think it's important.
Well, I mean, it's no secret, I talked to the commissioner about there's a cost, and we'll be coming to the board, and the judge said he'd be speaking with us about that too, but, and he's gonna also research the part about whether it be during the day. We had done one a number of years, a lot of years ago, and we used the courthouse and we did an actual active shooter training. But in order to have people there, no matter what time of day, we have to pay them to set that up. The other piece is the building has changed significantly since the last time we went through there, and I think it's a good idea
That's true.
I mean, it's really changed. The downstairs, we were
Downstairs.
downstairs the last time we did this training, so it's been a long time ago.
Mhm.
I can't remember how long ago it's been, so, just, for the court's sake, but for all of our sakes, it needs to happen
I
countywide.
think what Judge, you correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe what Judge is researching is that there's only certain reasons that a court can close.
Right.
And he was gonna check with them to see what they used, and that's gonna determine the staffing levels, what we have too. But the last one we did, that was actually on a weekend, and many of the county people that work in county offices didn't wanna come in, because it was on a weekend. Well, we came in and did the training, but it's worthwhile. I would think
Absolutely.
if you watch the segment with a friend of mine, Judge Buzzard, and what happened in his court, people running out of the courtroom, the judge went out and grabbed one of them on the way out, and what happened years ago in Grays Harbor when we kept talking about courtroom security, and then had a major incident down there, and then everybody decided that courtroom security, you can kind of see these things coming, but it's much safer now. But the building is different, and people change, and they maybe have not walked through. So the first thing that we have set is, I guess, what we're looking at now is pretty much the classroom training that Travis taught before. The second piece that we talked to Judge about, that I'm assuming he's talked to you about, was kind of a building walkthrough, to take people walk through and look at different things and just kind of discuss things. And the third one, and when we come back to you, is about putting together an actual active shooter training and people being involved in that, so.
Because I do believe besides the classroom, I think we did a walkthrough as
Yes.
well,
Yes.
is what I recall.
I'll second.
That's right.
Yeah.
Judge Finley, kind of shifting gears on you, are there still conversations happening around pretrial services and
Yes, in fact, I think that's something maybe Peter knows more about than I do. I haven't participated in those, but I believe that Judge Goodell and Peter Jones and Mike Dorsey both have been talking about it. Part of it has to do with perhaps us changing our calendar. I guess I do know something about it. Has to do with us changing our criminal calendar, because part of pretrial services would be doing things so someone doesn't necessarily, someone who we think could be released, except for the fact that we're concerned whether or not they show up to court. Can they have a robocall, for example? Can they do something like a check-in? And that, of course, does that happen every single court hearing? And so that's why we're looking at our court calendar. What's that gonna look like? So I guess either one of you gentlemen, probably if you know more than that, can.
Mike, you wanna talk, or should I?
Go ahead, Peter.
All right. Yeah, it's, the way we're talking right now is, there's some data out of Yakima County that seems to suggest, and you'll note the hesitant language on that, but that seems to suggest that if you start implementing these kind of pretrial services and these kind of robocalls, that you have a higher percentage of people showing up to court. You don't need to hold as many people in the jail pretrial. You can instead put them out on these less restrictive conditions and save yourself a little jail space. And Yakima County's really been the one that's tried this out or not. The data is young, and the data is not terribly detailed as to which of the pretrial services is the most effective. And so what we've kind of been talking about is trying to phase it in step by step, with starting with the cheaper option, the robocalls, and seeing how much does that eliminate. What size of the Yakima change came from this option? What size of it came from having people actually in an office checking up on people and doing almost a pretrial probation work? And obviously that's the more expensive option. So that's kind of the status of it right now. The change in the court calendar that Judge Finley's referring to is one of the hearings that you have in Superior Court. if you change around the way we've been doing Superior Court, you don't need the defendant to show up to it. But it's a change that many counties have made and we haven't yet, and it's a change to a way we've done things for a long, long time, and so there's some inertia behind that we need to figure out. I think systems and how Mike's office talks to my office, and how we deal with our clients, and there are a number of different structures that we can change before we can totally enact all of that. Is this me doing my report, or am I just supplementing yours at this point?
So you're just answering questions, you couldn't answer all the way from another committee, so.
Okay, that helps quite a bit. Wes, anything from your?
Amrice, I really like your security staff because they address me as doctor when they wave me on.
They're not my standard dog.
Oh, you get on it.
Yeah, actually, they're the clerks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'll tell her.
I haven't had the heart to tell them that I'm not.
Okay. Well, I will.
It makes me feel good.
If you ever do tell them, don't tell them I'm not.
Check I didn't put doctor on this. I'm looking forward to continuing the coroner's office partnership with Kitsap County. The new coroner up there would like to make their very nice facility, as Kevin, you've seen it, it's a nice state-of-the-art facility if you're in a coroner facility. And he wants to make it a regional center, and including with his plans to hire a full-time pathologist. Right now we subcontract out with pathologists, and so they will do everything. It'll be a one-stop shop for myself, hopefully Jefferson and Clallam counties. Excuse me, I've kind of been their guinea pig for the last few years, but it looks like it's something that could really work out and save us some money here for various reasons.
Great. That was quite an experience I had growing up with you, so I've never been the same since, so that's Peter?
Well, I mean, the public defender's office is pretty responsive, right? I'm part of most of what Judge Finley talked about. I would add that I think our mental health court is in an all-time high right now. We're in double digits and then some, which is just a really, really great change. Prosecutor's office has been very good at cooperating and very good at making sure we get the people that need to get into the mental health court in there. And I think long-term that's going to have an effect, and we're going to start seeing that play out. Excited about the new involuntary commitment facility. I think that's also going to have a pretty big effect. When the sheriff's folks have somewhere to take someone that isn't just the emergency room, right? Which is what they've been doing up until now. And so we got our fingers in a lot of pies, but they're all kind of someone else's pie. And so I don't know that I have much more to add than that, other than we just hit our 5-year mark of existing. Other than my predecessor, we haven't had anyone voluntarily leave the office, which is kind of a big deal for an office that has such a major draw of Thurston County right next to us, always trying to hire people at more money than we pay.
Take the fifth.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I think one of the
Good
things
idea.
on these systems that you're talking about with the court and from all sides, I mean, just throwing a number out there, you can get what you want. We generally see the first into the system before it goes to the court and
Yep.
put out the systems. And just so you understand what's coming at you and why these are good to get these formed, we had over 4,000 more calls for service last year than the year before. 4,000 more people coming in to the system, and to be able to deal with them without having to put everybody to jail, to have the alternatives, it's really helpful. We don't have the room, but I think people, some people have a different opinion. I don't think necessarily putting everybody in jail is the best way to serve the individual either. I think that some of these alternative courts and a way to have people move through the system in a different way is more effective for a whole community. And I think these alternative courts and the pretrial things where we can move people out and move them around, it's better for that individual many times, and it's better for our system. So I'm glad to see that, the mental health things are starting, the mental health facility, these are all helpful, but that's 4,000 more last year than this year. So we're taxing the system now and adding more, and I'm guessing that those numbers are gonna continue to crawl at that rate over the next few years, so hopefully we get into these things and keep them going.
Peter, anything else?
No, that's me.
Okay, Patsy, anything?
No, Judge Steele apologized for not being able to make it. He was in a motion hearing this afternoon. We are still in the process of learning each other and our calendars, and so far so good. We are going to be meeting with the prosecutor and public defense and private counsels to look at our calendars to determine what better way they can be done, if any, to better utilize court time and judge time and attorney times. Other than that, we've started our DVMRT program, and it's going good. So far, so good. Our regular MRT program is also still up and running really good. And I invite anyone who wants to attend a graduation to come and get a very deep insight about how the program really does work. So I'll let you know if you're interested. Let me know, and I'll send you the date on the next graduation.
Very good.
And I cannot tell you how good that DVMRT program is to have. Domestic violence, big problem in the county, sheriff knows about that, but the treatment for domestic violence and the psychological things that one must go through in order to receive that treatment are not covered by Apple Healthcare. And so everyone has to, if they're going through a private treatment facility, which is all we used to have, pay for their own. And we got a bunch of indigent people who can't. And so what was happening was, we get an indigent person into the system, they'd be ordered to go through, what is a year-long treatment program. They couldn't pay for it, they'd be violated, they'd be sent into the jail. And so getting that DVMRT program up and running, and we herald the therapeutic courts, which is great, but that DVMRT program, I think, is going to have a huge impact on how many people are going into the jail out of the misdemeanor courts, and also how many people are actually receiving DV treatment as opposed to just being put in jail and then let out. So I can't tell you how happy that made me when you guys put that in.
Great, very good. Thanks, Patsy. Dan?
Just pass these around if you're interested in taking one. 4-H Youth Development is offering educational opportunities coming up in Mason County. On January 12th, we hosted actually with Grace Harbor a cat and dog clinic. It sounds simple and crazy. We had over 50 Mason County families attend a cat and dog clinic. And that was looking at how to work with your animal. It's budgeting, how much does it cost? It's responsibility training. It's all that great stuff that's happening. What we're finding now is there are limited facilities in Mason County where people can actually have an animal for educational opportunities. Schools are locked down and our play sheds are closed on the weekends. So you can't get into a covered area. There is no fairgrounds to host that. So we're running into a spot where we have interested families that want to engage in healthy educational opportunities together but don't have a space to actually do it. Our recommendation as 4-Hers, we don't encourage families to bring that many people into their own home to learn those things. We like the public entities, open spaces like that. We have Memorial Hall that we're working with, but they're limiting, and they don't like live animals in their spaces, which makes sense. So if you have any opportunities, you can help me figure out how to keep these families engaged and these communities engaged with open spaces like that, that'd be fantastic. Our next one is this Saturday. It's making maple syrup. The snow conditions may have stopped our maple syruping from happening a little bit, but we have demonstrations set up where you can actually tap the tree. A sample has already been collected. We can boil it, and there'll be a meal served with syrup that has been pre-made already. So neat opportunity to look at the local culture with that coming up as well. And there's robotics at our Panhandle Lake 4-H camp, and then cake decorating coming up in McCleary. So those are the 4. Great attendance on those. Talking of the court stuff and the mental health stuff here, early learning is a big part of what I work on in Mason County. We had an early learning family fair back in November here in Shelton. Over 50 families attended that event here, looking at resources and coming together, things like that. We have one coming up February 23rd up in Belfair as well. So that's a great opportunity to engage with our early learners and supporting our early learning systems coming up. And finally, our Master Gardener trainings are coming up as well. A lot of things. This is the training time of year where you really can't get much to grow, but you can learn about growing stuff. So they're doing Through the Garden Gate, which is a series of 10 horticulture and educational trainings coming up.
Great. very good, thanks, Dan.
Oh, and kudos to Public Works for fixing a big chunk of our roof that blew off in the last windstorm pretty quick. So,
There you go. All right, Jerry. But first, before Jerry speaks, so we found out today, this is Jerry's.
Don't show that, please.
Well, I'm halfway there.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah, you can't stop
Now we're all
now.
curious.
50th year, beginning your 51st year as an engineer.
I've been doing this too long is what he's trying to say.
So, congratulations on that.
Thank you. We're doing what we do best. We're plowing snow, putting sand down, putting de-icer down. We're supposed to have more snow come in this weekend. We've got everything rolling, everything seems to be going good. We have a brand-new engineer start today, and I mean brand-new, just out of college. Excited about that. We have our new GIS analyst starting Friday. Excited about that. We still have, I think, either 2 or 3 engineering vacancies that we need to fill, and we're gonna work that direction. And with that, I guess that's probably about all that anybody wants to really have an interest in.
Very good. Well, appreciate all those updates, and that takes us to our last agenda item, which is our next meeting. Will be Monday, April 1st at 2 o'clock. As always, if you have any particular items that you'd like to see on the agenda, feel free to send those over our way, and we'll make sure they get on. But that's it for now.